Hi, this is Elena with Black Sheep 303 Creative, and today's project I am calling a wedding card, but you could really adapt it and use it for other occasions as well. It is using the Elizabeth Craft Design Spring Blooms stamps and dies, and I am going to be stamping those three stamps, so the big flower, the smaller flower, and the leaf stamp, and embossing them with silver detail embossing powder. Because in my mind I was thinking weddings have like metallics usually, kind of to go with the gray and sort of dusky lavender that I had going on. So I've stamped the large blossom in Versamark ink. This is onto Arches hot pressed watercolor paper. So hot press is smooth versus cold press, which is sort of textured. And I was going to be using my Zig Clean Color Roll Brush markers, and I wanted to try the hot press watercolor paper and see how that would work out. So you can see I've embossed and heat set the big flower, and then I'm going to do the same thing with my small flower and leaf. And I will actually stamp a second set of those, but I only wind up using the leaf, not the second smaller flower on the card. Now I have a little glass of water, and I have my water brush that I don't have any water in because I don't use it that way. I have no idea why, but that's just my technique. I like the tip of the brush. I guess I rarely use it with water in it, every once in a while. So I'm getting this really pretty wet. And because I wanted to try that sort of like when you just dab the color on and the color just bleeds out into the water, because I wanted to have a very sort of subtle color to this flower. I wanted it to be mostly very pale with like some dark purple towards the center of the flower. So I am using two different colors of Zigs. That first one, the pinky purple, is light violet 81. And that second one is 83 lilac. But I actually wind up changing that because it's so light that after I do a few of these petals, I decide to go to 80 violet, which is darker, and I actually wind up using 80 violet for the whole rest of the card. So just ignore the 83. So there we go. There's the 80 violet. Because the darker purple did a nicer job of kind of blending with that pinky purple and creating a difference between like the darkness in the interior of the petal versus the lightness towards the outside. And so I'm just basically like kind of scribbling on some color into that water because each thing is pretty wet, and then dabbing off as I need, like with this leaf, because that got pretty dark and I wanted it fairly pale. And then just letting the color kind of bleed, and I'll direct it a little bit with my marker as I go to kind of add a little bit more shading here and there. But it was really pretty easy like this, right? Where I'm just kind of going in and touching it up just a bit and then blending it out with the water. So really, really easy. No fancy technique going on here at all. And that's black that I am using to kind of, there's little holes in this, like bits on the stamens. And then I did go along the edges of some of them just because they were hard to see with the silver, just to sort of emphasize those a little bit. And I'm coloring the smaller flower exactly the same way as the larger flower. I was thinking of these as like the bud version of that bigger flower. I have no idea if that's what they're supposed to be or not, but that was my thinking. So that's why I'm coloring them the same way. And I wanted to show you my white glaze pen here that I'm using to clean up an area that I really screwed up. Like I watercolored an area that I shouldn't have. And so I do that a lot with everything, like Copic markers, Spectrum Noirs, watercolor. I will use my white glaze pen kind of as an eraser to just go over any areas that you don't want colored. So that's my tip for this video, I think. So here are all my components. Now I've die cut out the flowers with the matching dies, and then those two little banners at the top, I stamped and embossed the same way as the flower stamps. The happiness comes from the Elizabeth Craft Design's General Sentiment stamp set, and then Wishing You Lots Of is from the Simon Says Stamp Happy and Smile stamp set. And there you can see I've die cut out my white oval using the Elizabeth Craft Design stitched oval dies. This is a piece of Dusky Lavender soft finish cardstock from Elizabeth Craft Designs, and I used the second largest dotted scallop rectangle die to cut that one out. And then this is one of the new pattern papers that Elizabeth Craft Designs is carrying. It's so cute. That is from the Moda Scrap Thinking of You 12 by 12 polka dot set, the colorway being Polinesia for that really pretty gray. And then this is just an A2 size card base. Now this Polinesia piece, the polka dotted, is slightly larger. It's a 5 5/8 by 4 1/4, just so I can get my polka dot spacing correct, kind of all the way around the edge. And that extra 1/8 of an inch that kind of sticks up over the top, so when you open it, it doesn't really interfere or anything. And I'm just sandwiching them together with some double-sided adhesive tape, just layering them up. And then I'm going to put foam tape on the back of the large flower to give that a little bit of extra dimension and emphasis. And as you can see, I need to kind of figure out where my banners are going to go. And so I'm kind of placing everything where I think it's going to wind up in the end, just so I can determine where am I putting these banners down. I didn't want to screw that up too much. So I've got double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the banners, and I'm kind of eyeballing based on my setup there as to where to put them. And then this one I actually counted the dots from the top so I would know exactly where to put it back. So that's how I knew to go right there. And it was a little long, so I trimmed it down. And then the smaller pieces I was going to put directly onto the card. So it'd be behind the larger piece. So I'm using, just trimming down some 10mm adhesive tape to kind of get a good adhesive onto that, although I don't cover those thoroughly. If you've watched any of my other flower videos or floral card videos, I don't put adhesive like all over the flowers normally. I kind of focus on the middles because that allows the edges to kind of curl up or, you know, give a little extra dimension to it. And now I'm just adhering down the large flower on its foam tape into the center, and that is essentially the completed project. So really very easy, not tough at all, and I think quite pretty, if I do say so myself. I love the sort of subtle pinky purple coloring of the flower, and it was really easy to do and pretty quick, and you don't have to have a lot of skill. So I hope I've provided you with a little bit of inspiration today. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed already, I always welcome new subscribers, so please do that as well. If you are tempted to purchase anything as a result of this video, I would love it if you would click the link in the video description, which will take you to my blog, where I have some affiliate links that give me a tiny commission on anything you purchase as a result of the video, but is at no extra cost to you. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day.